Parts. I can hear you, so I guess we're recording.
All right, good.
Hey, Charlie. Number 2, indeed. Yeah, it took some time to get this in the works, but here we are. After all, life threw at us. We finally managed to get it done.
Yeah, glad to be back.
I think it was about 2 months ago we originally planned this one. No?
Yeah, I think something like that. It's time just gets away. It's so difficult between the this baby and the other babies and all the things I've been doing. It's been a really busy time, but in lots of good ways. So it's not been unproductive.
No, okay, perfect. I saw the update coming through just before we started, so I don't think there's unproductiveness in the crypt right now.
Yeah, that's one of the things that always takes me ages to get around to is all this new stock arrives and I'm like, I've got to sit down and upload it all. It takes so long.
Yeah.
It's such a job, but you want to do it right and you want to make sure you're being fair with the prices and all these sort of things. So I usually just do it in one flurry. And between the shop closing today and this interview, I had a couple of hours unspoken for. So I just burned through a bunch of it. And I just started to remember a couple of things I forgot to upload. So there will be some more stuff.
You want to take a break?
No, I'm done. My eyes are getting blurry from looking at the computer.
Hold this a bit closer. Okay, well, yeah. Last time we kind of talked about history of the shop and then the black shop and the white shop, I guess, to put it easily. Anything change during COVID? I mean, since we last talked, I know the vet rules have been hitting pretty hard.
The biggest change.
Sorry, I thought you were frozen.
No, I thought you were. I heard the last thing you said was asking about what's happened since we last spoke. I mean, the biggest change since we last spoke is probably the most boring one, which is the the sort of the effect of Brexit and I believe also governments giving out free money for best part of a year is that they decided that it was time to close some tax loopholes. And the biggest one has been, importing and exporting from the UK has become an absolute nightmare. So I think Brexit definitely opened the door to it, but I think they're just looking for any excuse to save pennies right now. And record distribution existed in this sort of grey area for so long, where it was like in America where you put a can of beer in a paper bag, it was like the same thing. You just said it wasn't worth anything and you sent it off, and 99.9% of the time that was fine. And that worked very well for businesses like mine and many others. And it wasn't exactly, we weren't cheating people out of huge amounts of tax, or it didn't feel like it anyway, but we were just, trying to make our operations function smoothly. Most of the time it worked. Now, what's happened now is that they've closed that gap. So there's no longer a minimum threshold from what I can send out. You can skip this bit if it's painfully boring, viewers. But so now I have to declare absolutely everything. And if I don't, the customer at the other end gets hit with a huge bill. So I wanted to smooth that out as much as possible. There was some unbelievably patient people in Europe who all bought Heavy Sentence Records, which was the last big label release for us, and for a big Go to Warwick's batch as well, which people were waiting for. And in the end, I got them to everybody, and no one paid any fines and fees. And more or less nobody, I think. Don't email me if you did. I'm sure we're already talking about it. But and I won't disclose how I did it, but because I don't want any trouble. But going forward, it meant that I had to completely start the shipping side and the logistics side of my business again from scratch. So going forward, it's a totally new operation. In some ways, it's much better, but it's much more clear. There's no grey area. There's no shady things anymore. It just is what it is. And so any European who looks at my store now sees their local taxes applied to my prices, which of course has had a big effect on my European customers, and it's really sad because ultimately, we're a global community of record nerds, and we want to be able to get shit when we want it and not have to pay crazy prices if we don't have to. So it's a shame, and there's nothing I can do about it. All I can say is now it works, and so if people buy stuff, they don't get taxed at the other end. It's a lot smoother operation, but it's what it is. People are going to have to get used to it.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. For the foreseeable future, it's going to be like that. I saw Mesaka and Oyo did something. They now have their European hub somewhere in Lithuania and are shipping from there, which is also working out if it's possible. But
as do I, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Maybe I just spoiled it.
No, that's another thing altogether. That's a different thing. But yeah, no, we've all basically gone in loads of UK labels. So it's me, it's Misako, it's Levides and Mus, it's Bad Omen. Tons of UK labels are now utilizing a warehouse space in Lithuania. And it's run by a guy from Sweden who lives in Spain and runs his business South Lithuania. So who better would there be to move stuff around Europe than someone with that sort of reach? So it's that's helped us a lot, and hopefully that will get stuff to customers. At least label releases will get stuff to customers in Europe without any trouble. Considering we all press our releases in Europe anyway,
it's a good workaround, I guess.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I saw another label get hit by in Germany, Bissaufmessig. I don't know if you know those guys.
Say again.
Bissaufmessig, the store in Berlin.
I don't think I do know that label.
They it's a distro mainly, but they are closely connected to Vendetta Records. And they're purely operating as a shop and a label or a mail order, and now they got hit with taxes because they I think they had a coffee machine, and now the government says you're a cafe, you have to pay like, I don't know, they have to pay like 4,000 euros in back taxes all of a sudden. So
amazing. Yeah, luckily I'm next door to a coffee shop, so I don't have to make my own coffee.
Perfect. Just a warning.
Yeah, no, I mean it's I mean Germany is the country I'm having the most trouble with, of course, and there's some labels that I can't get stuff from anymore. They just absolutely cannot figure out a logistical way to get stuff to me that makes sense for them, and so I've just had to say goodbye to those labels for the time being, and it's really a shame,
But there's really no distribution for those things in England, I guess.
No, I mean, there are for some, but oftentimes the big distributors tack on such a big margin that it just pushes the price beyond affordability. So I always try and deal direct with labels. I am back to dealing with distributors again more than I previously was in the white shop era, simply because they can better the prices. Sadly, I mean, I do a lot of business with Svart, who I love working with. They're a fantastic label, always a pleasure to deal with, and I like the relationship. But price-wise, I can buy it from a local distributor, 20% cheaper. So I probably won't deal with them direct anymore.
It's just logic, I guess.
Boring, I'm afraid, but this is the part of the business that's not about music. It's about shopkeeping, which is not very exciting to talk about. No. I'm sure it's interesting to someone.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I was like I said, I was just getting my comfort zone at Crypt of the Wizard, just getting stuff as a local or a global hub, and then that stuff happens. So it's not end of story because I still shop at your shop, but I was thinking about just making the trip to London.
There you go. I mean, at this point, maybe in the long run, it's cheaper to just put stuff aside and then once a year pop over and pick it all up.
Maybe I have to charter a plane, but we'll see. We'll see when we get there.
Just about make it on Eurostar, can't you?
Yeah, one wagon.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I could probably just about fit my shop in a train car.
That would be cool. And then come over once.
There you go. It would be like Snowpiercer, like a traveling record shop just around Europe. It would certainly avoid some taxes.
Would be cool. One can dream, can't we not? Yeah. Last time the setup was that I bought a bunch of records from you, and that we were going to talk about the records. We barely talked about the records in the 2.5 hours we talked. So I was thinking to dive in a bit into those records, and I know you have the Wizards bin somewhere that we can pull records out of. There's some other stuff I want to go into, but maybe the records are the thing we can work around, if you will. The first thing I have are these two tapes that I don't know too much about, and these are the Eternal Tyrant tapes I got from you.
Oh, yeah.
They popped up and disappeared rather quickly.
What have I got? Let me see.
Yeah.
It's one of them.
Is that new?
I don't know. These aren't actually mine, I must say. The guy from Atrocity Altar was over, and these are his. Oh. But then he went back to Australia and left them here. So he forgot. So I have to ship them to him. I promise I will. Just he might have to ship me some stuff first. But I do have my own copies, but they're in the I can't really show you, but I have this tape mounting here, which is becoming increasingly precarious, and it's getting quite dangerous. I can't get anything out of it anymore, but it's just starting to pile up and up and up. I desperately need to sort through it, but there you are. So they're in there somewhere. Yeah, Eternal Tyrant came out on Spiritual Disease, right?
The first one did, and I think that's the one you showed. I have that one, and that's a Dungeon Sins release. But these two, all of a sudden, because I was under the impression that these were going to be Dungeon Sins releases, but these are just blasting black metal, two really good tapes. They're in the style of German 90s Moonblood, stuff like that. So yeah, the Teutonic scene, if you will, but yeah, very, very good. You haven't listened to them, or
I have. The demo of the one, I forget the titles, but there's one. It starts with dogs barking, and it's
takes the sword, and the one it's really hard to read. Yeah.
I'm not sure. The demo was kind of being passed around a little bit before it was even released by a couple of people I know, and someone suggested that I give it a listen, and it really hit me between the eyes. You know, increasingly there seems to be something sort of swelling in the UK. Some really great sounds have been coming out of here in the last year, maybe 2 years, and some have a longer tail than that. Some stretch back to little labels and underground scenes that have been around for much longer, but it just feels like something's coming to a head a little bit. In fact, a better way to put it would be that the scene that was sort of built around something like Legion Bloodhound Stoic Strength feels like it's finally spawned some sort of children, and and that those people are now sort of coming up, very influenced by that. Not just the sort of attitude and ethics, the sort of DIY-ness of it, but also the kind of sounds and connecting to something, primarily something about what surrounds them, rather than a lot of what UK black metal seems to have done traditionally, which is aping sounds from other countries. I mean, having said that, of course, there's influences. And I think the Eternal Tyrant, you're pretty spot on. It definitely has the Iljan drum sound in there a little bit as well. And but it just started off with dogs barking, and I thought there was something so English about it, as opposed to sort of wolves howling or whatever. It was like just a couple of sort of Rottweilers just barking at you while you walk through like a bit of London you shouldn't be walking through at night or whatever. It just had that attitude, and I really liked it. So I was glad to see them come out. I don't know what's much about the project other than that, but
Oh, they don't release too much info. It's out on, and I think the label is Albion Combat Regiment. That's what's on the
right.
site.
Okay, yeah. Now I can see the spines here. Let's see if I can get tape mounted.
I managed to decipher the titles. One is Take the Sword, and the other one is, let me see, The Horns Sang for War.
That's right. There's one of them. The other one's too low in the mountain. I'm worried about taking that one out.
I just rearranged my entire tape collection just to see what could go, because I'm selling a bunch of records basically. I have some IKEA shelving that works, so I had the same problem, like take one out, 100 fall over, but I managed to to sort it out, I guess. Yeah, it's true what you say, because last time we kind of set up the English black metal through the ages. We started at Venom, then worked our way through Cradle of Filth, which we wouldn't talk about, I guess. And then logical conclusion was Legion Blow 10 to go to this and to go to all the other stuff. But since then, yeah, it seems a lot more is popping up here and there. One of the examples is the Eternal Tyrant, which kind of surprised me, like you said, because go from pure dungeon synths to this kind of black metal, which is not a huge leap in my opinion, because they are kind of connected in a way. But yeah, really surprised by these two, and glad to have them actually.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I think I have a feeling someone involved came somewhat out of the UK hardcore scene, and what's interesting to me about that is like, and this isn't a call out, but every time I see kids playing in hardcore bands in the UK, they're wearing Bathory shirts or Venom shirts or Hellhammer shirts or whatever. So there's a clear interest and influence in that era and that sound of metal. But I'm still waiting for those kids to start playing in bands that sound less like Discharge and more like Hellhammer or whatever, and it just doesn't seem to follow through. And in fact, Nikki, who works here, told me no, all the UK hardcore bands are splitting up and starting indie rock bands, so it's really much in the other direction. It's because they get written about in the Guardian, so it's I don't know. I'm always waiting for it, but it's not as if you do start one of those bands, there's this great warm embrace waiting for you, and the money and fame. It's a miserable business.
Better to start an indie band if that is the
if that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. One of the speaking about punks or hardcore kids that play black metal, the other tape, and I was very lucky to score this one, is the Occulted Dead Stance.
Oh, look at that! That was in my pile. Look.
Great minds think alike, I guess.
There you go.
I am not sure where they're from. I don't think they're English, right?
Scottish.
English.
Scottish.
Oh, okay. Another one that took me by surprise. It shouldn't have, because it's Fellowfield, which is, I never made a top 10 label list, but it's in consideration for the top 10, because everything he puts out or is involved in is, I mean, it's all pretty much gold. This is the 6th demo, it said on YouTube, 7th release, so I'm not sure what that is all about. Maybe they have a full length I don't know about, but yeah, it's actually pretty cool looking artwork.
Yeah.
What this is it is, I listened to one or two others from their releases, and it's all pretty unlistenable. Is not the right term to use, because it's, if you're into raw black metal, it's all pretty unlistenable. But this one comes a bit out of the muck, and there is a lot more influences on here. They put a lot of genres into one thing without, making it a predictable jigsaw. There is really plus logos.
I think aesthetically speaking, it's just off the charts. You know, it's familiar, but it's unusual. It's putting it's taking sort of tropes that we're really you know, that are well trod and recognized, and taking them and pushing them into a sort of slightly more extreme place. I don't know a whole hell of a lot about the project really, but I've been following it bit by bit, picking up pieces here and there. One of the tapes I picked up a long time ago of his, because I'm pretty certain it's a one piece, although I think potentially later there's a drummer as well. But this was.
Seems a lot of these projects starts off as one man, and then they kind of notice that they could be a bit better, or you know, with some people.
Someone else liked it and wants to join in. Go to Oryx did a tape version of this release, but this is the original version, which comes in this bag, which is if you had to handle very carefully because there's these giant thorns sticking out of it, and inside a sort of little bag of detritus, which is designed to hurt you if you're not careful.
Okay.
You know, and then a very sort of handmade tape. And I was just sort of fascinated by these very, very handmade, but really quite beautiful looking things. And I've managed to pick up a few over the years, but I think, let me look, I'm looking in the tape mountain. I think there's more here somewhere. But it's always because these bag tapes I never know what to do with, so they just end up in a pile next to my desk.
They look incredible, but they're the bitch at the door. Oh, okay. It's not all them, right?
No. That's literally my little bag corner. No, I can't find any more at the moment. And but they're so singular. And then moving a bit more onto what it sounds like. It's I would say it's like it's raw black metal. It's a different type of raw. It's not the raw you're thinking of, which has become like such a sort of genre in its own right. Like the harshness and the rawness comes from somewhere else, and I would say harsh noise probably plays a big part in the sort of ingredients or in the makeup of the person behind it, because it really has that sort of clanking, damp, harsh noise that make you really uncomfortable, but delivered with sort of brutality and passion. And I just think that probably there's very few people other than a couple of the Legion Blotan bands doing anything quite like this. And I think his first release was Legion Blotan as well. So there's a time there as well.
It's hard to find peers for this sound, because like I said, it's a bunch of influences coming together, but plucked from all the right places, not just, I don't know, like Lambic Murmur. The new one just is The Cure mixed with a big black metal. And I'm not here to, give my opinion about that, but this is different because it all fits. It all comes from kind of the same place, without being the same genre, for example. But yeah, it is. I was really surprised by this one, knowing Fellowfield, because they have, like I said, they all have quality, but this stands out as a release. It seems it's a split release. It has the Fellowfield bird, and then it has the Aske logo. Do you know anything about? Do you know anything about that label?
Yeah, I know what ASCA stands for. Anti-Social Culture England. And it was a UK label that I don't know if it really still exists. It's certainly where I came across the first Occulted Death Stance releases. There were some other black metal projects on there as well, and then some or lots of harsh noise and other bits and pieces like that. But I never managed to really pin down who and what it was, or even get any regular information or releases. It would just be one of those things where every now and again you'd remember, oh, there's that label, and you'd check it out, and maybe there were some new releases. Probably they were already sold out, and that was about it. But again, somewhere from the murky depths of the UK, and I'm not sure if anywhere is quite as good at keeping what they do secret as they are here as well. Maybe that's one of the reasons why this stuff doesn't blow up on the international scene as much, because there's a to pardon the association, but there is a stoic sort of attitude behind it, that it's not about necessarily communicating to a large audience. It's an inward thing.
Yeah, it is. I got sent this sticker because this was not in the tape. I got sent this sticker by, I think it was the guy behind Bull God, who does Blinding Sun. I didn't know what it was. But yeah, I know it was English because it had the flag on it, but then it showed up on this tape and I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Coincidence. Yeah, for the people watching this is when we both pull it out, it is recommended by both, of course. So check this out. Do you concur that the other or the previous work is more harsh? You said harsh noise. I don't hear this on this one. So I guess it's on the earlier material.
Yeah, maybe less so. I mean, you know what? Like they run into each other a bit in my memory, and something just drives me when I'm in a certain mood. Actually, oftentimes it's walking home from the shop very late at night, when it's very bleak and dark outside. Nothing quite hits like it. But I would say you're right. There is it's more put together maybe than some of the releases. Some of them are a bit looser. There's some sort of clear riffs and songwriting and stuff in here that's a bit different. Much like the first one I showed you. Again, I can't remember what it's called, but I mean you can't blame me. But it's actually like thoroughly listenable if you've got if you've got the capacity to listen to harsh sounds, then it's very listenable. It's not trying to put you off.
Yeah, I know that the first time I heard about them was a guy I'm trading with from America was trying to give me the tape from Go to Warx, and I listened to it, but just clicking through a digital file and was like, yeah, no, not for me at this time. But yeah, listen back to it. Sometimes starting from something you like this, and then going back, you hear, oh yeah, okay, maybe there's this and there's that. So
it's good that Danny's from Go Warx has got behind it, because it certainly isn't gonna. It's not gonna shift huge amounts of copies, and I also think I can say that because when I got the Go to Warx batch that came with that tape, took the longest to sell.
Yeah.
But I noticed the people buying it, because I do get to know my regular customers, were all heads, as we call them here. They were all people who are really seeking out, the truth, and or whatever. They're seeking out something a bit further into the undergrowth, and then I know something's really interesting when my non-metal customers come to me. So I've got a few people who they don't buy metal, they don't buy black metal, they don't buy death metal, but they buy weird shit, and that's like a category of its own right. I mean, for me, I can see where it comes from. These people don't care about any of that. They just want weird shit. And I know I sold it to a few people like that as well. So I won't blow them. Some of them are quite famous DJs.
Famous DJs who play occulted death stuff.
They play it in their bedrooms, but not on their radio shows.
Okay, something like that. Do you have a bin called Weirds? You have black metal, death metal. Is there a part in the shop that's just for weird music?
Oh, I'm too lazy for all that shit. It would entitle me actually deciding what genre things were. So it's A to Z in here, because I cannot be fucked. It's too much. Although I do have a separate bin just for Misako and Oho releases, because he's a special guy and he deserves his own little space.
Special guy, special bin. Okay. Well, since we're talking about special guys, special bins, and weird music, in the batch were these two also, the Filth records. I listened to them again today because I really have to be in a mood.
Oh yeah, so I sent you those. I can't even remember now.
Sorry? Yeah. I don't want this to get too embarrassing, but
fucking hell. I'm not sure we should release this.
if you pull out the sports boxer shirts, we're both fucked.
I've got an excuse. Mine's for the shop.
Okay. Well, mine not.
I've got a couple
the
of these
Friedhof records
space up with some stuff, so I've been slowly accumulating it.
for the ceiling.
Yeah, the ceiling is like long and sloped and totally bare, and unfortunately, I had a leak as well, and a lot of water came in. And amazingly, it came in from one corner and destroyed the rare record wall. So it ate through about 5 records, causing about fucking £600 worth of damage. But there you are. It's only records and money and things I love. What can you do?
That's painful.
Yeah.
Was it top record in that batch?
Say it again.
Was it top record in that batch?
Oh, I mean, there was some rhinoceros stuff there that was pretty painful. A couple of old Go Oryx releases. Then there's a few things that weren't quite as valuable but were cool. Some very rare Sabbat stuff. Yeah.
That's my biggest nightmare. That because I'm in the basement right now, so that's not a great way to store records. I know, but there's literally no other room in the house. So if this ever floods, it's game over.
Yeah, fuck it. I'll just walk into the sea. I mean, it's an interesting conversation because the record collection does get to a point where it's such a like a weight around your neck. A friend of mine just realized his house insurance doesn't cover his record collection, and so he has had the record collection insured now, and his insurance bill is just unfathomable. And so after a while, you're paying to own these things. You're renting them back to yourself. It does get to a point of madness for certain.
Last time we talked about, and I've written it down to pick it up, the collector's breaking point, which is what we're talking about right now again. I think people who are collecting from childhood, basically, what I guess you are doing too, it is becoming a weight around the shoulders. One way is to sell shit off just to keep some air in the collection. But we talked about when the breaking point would come that you would say like, fuck it, it all has to go, and don't worry about it anymore. Are you somewhere around that point, or?
No, not even close. I mean, I'm still I'm walking around when I leave work thinking it's gotta stop. I don't need any of this stuff. I listen to most of it once and it gets filed away and whatever, and then while I'm doing it, I'm like, I get on the train, sit and look at Discogs, sit and look at a few distros, pick up a couple of things. When I'm not working here, I look at punk and I look at a couple of distros. There's a local shop just around the corner, 2-minute walk, called World of Echo, and they just stock loads of shit I don't know anything about, so I can always take a couple of recommendations from them. I've been buying a lot of trilogy tape stuff recently, some good techno. I've been buying every Brain Bombs album for some reason. I don't know if you need more than one Brain Bombs album, but I'm currently buying them all. I'm also like really working my way through trying to build up my current 93 collection.
That's something I for now staying away from because I need to listen to it a bit. But
he wrote me a birthday card for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and he has the most beautiful handwriting you've ever seen in your life. It was a picture of a train, like a steam train, like a card you'd buy for a sort of 5-year-old boy in the 60s, and it said "Happy birthday to Charlie from me and the train." Big letters. Very strange man, and now I'm totally obsessed. I used to have a bit here and there that I picked up, and now I'm trying to accumulate bits of everything. I've got a friend who works for House of Mythology, who are slowly reissuing all his stuff. So I'm picking up some bits. He also makes a lot of like lathes and one-off things and whatever that I'm getting little bits of, and I've asked him if he wants to come do a signing at the shop, so maybe that will happen as well. He might like it just because it's a weird place to come to, but yeah. So my point being is that I sort of cleanse my collecting underground metal by collecting other fucking records. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm buying books, or not. I've been buying knives recently, and so it's the brain damage I was born with. It's not like it's going to get any better anytime soon. So it's if I if I stop this shit, it's going to be something else. So maybe just keep doing this. So it's better the devil you know, I guess.
Yeah, I was wondering about a week ago, like how big is the hole I need to fill? I have no idea.
How big is the
hole I need to fill in my emotion spectrum?
In your soul?
Yeah, in my soul. Yeah, it's massive. That's not something I'm comfortable talking about, actually. So your collection, I had a question, like, what's your musical makeup? If you have to, it's kind of a cliche question, but not really. What's like the beginnings of, like, for example, if I had to choose my my three starting points, it would be Velvet Underground, Stooges, and maybe, I don't know, maybe make it easy, maybe something like Black Sabbath, metal, the punk, and the more weirder stuff. Where does what's your starting point?
Mine's quite different. I'd say, I mean, at first it was just music as an idea, my mum had records in the house, and my dad had music in the car, cassette tapes. So I liked the records better than the tapes, and so it was really eventually. I managed to convince my mum to let me have the record player in my bedroom, and it was this giant wooden framed thing with these with these crazy connectors that you could never replace because they didn't make them anymore, and it still had 78 RPM on it, and it had an automatic start. So when my mum used to come wake me up for school, I'd be like, push the button, And I was listening to her Beatles records and stuff like that, although I was never a Beatles fan. Really, like the dog that bit me, when I try and think back to what really got me crazy was Iron Maiden, and I was quite young. I was very, very influenced by two older kids that were sort of in my family for a bit, these twin brothers, and that I'm pretty sure they put me in that direction. I remember being in my dad would take me record shopping as well when we'd go to see my grandparents, because he knew it would make it a bit more interesting for me. There was an old secondhand record shop. So I also remember being in there with a Sex Pistols record and a ZZ Top record, and they were both 50p, and I had 50p to spend. And I remember being like, really struggled. I bought the Sex Pistols. But I later bought Motorhead from there as well. But then I didn't really know if I liked it or not. But then when I finally bought the Maiden record, which I'm pretty sure the brothers turned me on to, it just, that was the end of it. And where I grew up is where Maiden are from, more or less. So there was a loyalty that was akin to sort of football supporters for Maiden. In certain parts, you'd see these guys with their West Ham tattoos and the Iron Maiden shirts, or the other way around, and they would and the charity shops and the junk shops were full of old Maiden records. So I mean, I'm sure I passed over a few hundred copies of the Soundhouse tapes because I wasn't buying 7-inches yet, but I was buying all the 12. So my almost all my Maiden collection comes from then. First pressings from when I was a kid, and they were pennies. I mean, it's hard to believe they're worth anything now. I'm occasionally filling the odd hole because there was ones I used to lend out, because I was less precious about records back then. There's sort of one in here somewhere, and I'm starting to fill up a few gaps now, but fucking, they got so expensive, it's crazy, and I still can't see them as valuable records to me. They're like, no, these are cheap records. So that was definitely a big point. And then, what broke through that was probably the opposite of it. which was like a band like Sonic Youth. I think for me, were the epitome of everything that was cool at that time. It was the mid-late 90s, no, early to mid 90s, I guess, when I first came across them. And they were just effortlessly cool and a bit hard to obtain and understand. But very quickly that you could find the music and the records, but trying to be as cool as it was almost impossible. So you were trying to understand it. Funny enough, Thurston Moore lives quite close by now and pops in the shop every now and again. I still get a bit nervous. And then maybe, let's say, if we're going for a third, I think Mayhem was then probably the band that triggered me into where I am now. I mean, I could probably pick some other bands around that era, but certainly Death Crash by Mayhem was a mind blur for me.
Yeah.
So that's probably it. It's always been heavy music, always guitar music, and it's only actually as I've got older that I've started to listen to anything else. I think I've always liked a little bit of folky music or whatever, but I always think now I've been buying quite a bit of techno, and I think about Fenris from Darkthrone saying he just didn't understand it. He didn't know how it was made. He didn't know how to make it. He didn't know anything about what was involved in it. And it's just that finally clicked with me maybe 15 years after hearing that interview, that it's really refreshing to listen to something you don't understand. So Trilogy Tapes have put out shit. I don't know what any of it is. I go by other people's recommendations.
What's Trilogy Tapes? Because
Trilogy Tapes is a label here that a guy called Will Bankhead is behind, but he kind of comes out of the skate scene. But it's also a clothing label. I mean, again, I quite like it because it's slightly mysterious. I don't fully understand it, but he's been buying records off me this last year mostly. But we have friends in common, and we probably met when I was a kid, when I used to be a little skateboarding rat.
Yeah, and is it techno? Or a bit of everything.
This is across the board, but the stuff I've been buying off him is techno, because, like I say, it confuses me.
Yeah,
that was the last thing I bought off him.
Okay, weird cover.
Yep, that got me started. It looked cool.
Yeah.
It's called Rezzett, Rezzett.
Yeah, I've written it. I think in some ways I know more about techno than I know about black metal, because that was a genre that, where I went to school is like this place in Belgium that is kind of known for its, dance scene, if you will.
Right.
So I'm bringing up from like when I was 12, it was Nirvana and Thunderdome. Just rotate those two. Bit of Gabber, like combat boots.
Right. That didn't get here really till much later, and by the time it had got here, it had kind of mutated into something else. It was really big in the. I do remember, because I used to go to a lot of jungle raves. I never bought the music and I never got on with it, but it was good for going out, and I had some friends who were super into the scene, and so we go on these like terrifying, like, industrial warehouses. I mean, a lot of them around here now, which is fully gentrified, but back then it was like no man's land. And then on these convoys where you would all get in a car, and you drive to a certain point and wait to be told where to go next, and it'd be cold and whatever, and miserable business. But I remember at the point where the jungle raves started playing Gabba too, and then a guy from London called Wayne Adams, who is better known as Pet Brick these days. He's got a band with Igor Cavalera, and he runs a recording studio just down the road called Bear Bites Horse. But when I met him, he was Lady Scraper, DJ Lady Scraper, and he was the first person. I think it was the first like Gabba thing to get reviewed in Kerrang, because he used loads of metal samples. And he was like a metalhead who was making Gabba, basically. I mean, it still made no fucking sense to me, but good for him. It's a very good friend of mine.
I think in the last contract I did with Peter from Alkerdeel, I kind of I kind of linked Zorgvachter to Gabber in a weird way.
Right. Sure. You know, it's there. You know.
Yeah, it's around the same time. You know, the imagery was there. The if you fold out the poster they have with the reissue is just four gabbers playing, you know, some weird ass black metal stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't connect, but I was loudly thinking, is there a connection?
It's strange that connection was not made at the time, and if it was, it's not become part of the narrative.
No.
And it's strange still to this day that someone's not trying to merge those two things. But maybe there's no audience for it, or maybe they are, and I'm too old to know about it.
No, I think if you run down the line, because we were talking about Filth.
Yeah.
If you, for example, listen to the, I have to go into my notes, but Running Through the Night from the Finisterre, if you hear that song, the entire record basically has this reverence for Eurodance. It comes from Kraftwerk, and you know, it just walks the line of Eurodance. But there is a sample in there, or he plays "I Like to Move It, Move It," that song, which is like a shitty ass song, but it works in the context of that Friedhof track. But yeah, I don't think it's too far off to think like if you put "I Like to Move It," and Friedhof, it could be Gabber could be influencing something like.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's probably it's as close as maybe it's come. Although it's like you say, it's more of a Euro techno and a chiptune thing that they seem to be into, and obviously the core of it is Crypt, which is he was obviously in a similar place to you, where he was making black metal in a world of dance music, and he was brave enough to try and, you know, like approach them both at the same time. He's like one of those absolute curiosities that it makes no sense that why he's so popular on the underground at all. I mean,
I have written down literally, it baffles the mind how this is adopted by black metal.
Completely, but I mean, it goes to show that you know people like to think of metal as having this sort of rebellious spirit, but actually metal's quite conservative, really, and it likes following rules and defining things well. But then, on the contrary, it also likes these sort of like eruptions of strangeness, and how bands like Lugubrum or you know, Crypt stay central to the narrative of black metal, and how they sell as many records as they do, or keep, you know, encouraging people to get into them. It's sort of baffling, and I think that mystery is what keeps black metal interesting, because if it was too far one thing or the other, it would be too predictable. So that little spark of weirdness, I guess, is what keeps it alive.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's true, because in a weird way, some part of black metal is about gatekeeping and keeping the narrative straight, from Dead Crush to, I don't know what the successor of Dead Crush right now is, but you know, something like Stormkeep, for example.
Maybe.
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird that, or it's what makes it interesting that it has those, you know, yeah, those weird spats like Krasamkeit or a Friedhof that comes out of that scene that just keeps, you know, spreading its roots and growing even more and further and further and further. So
there are definitely records again that have been going to my head customers, you know, the ones who don't buy a lot of metal, and I've sold a lot of copies. I've had to restock, you know, and I've also been playing them on my new NTS show as well that I've been doing, because I know it's going to appeal. It's going to draw people in a little bit, because it's weird, and it's maybe not what they were expecting to hear when they were told, or when they saw a black metal show coming. So, or you know, I would say it's not a black metal show, but it's a Crypt of the Wizard show, and the makeup of this shop has slowly just become underground black metal and really cheesy heavy metal, and that's 90% of what I stock now, because those are my two great passions in life, I think. So
we'll talk about cheesy heavy metal in a bit, but since you brought up the NTS radio show, I noted it down because I want to talk about it. You are 3 episodes in, I guess, right now.
Yeah, 3 episodes into a 6 episode run.
Oh, okay, so it's 6 and done.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, listen to it as much. Just keep pressing play,
Yeah.
repeat, and we'll see what the numbers look like at the end of the run. But yeah,
we're
maybe
right now.
Say that again. Sorry.
We're in season 1 right now, and we'll see
Season 1. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The note I made, because you played Occulted Death Stance, that's why it popped in my head. But it's weird that we talk about Gabber and black metal, and one of the tracks you played, the Best Lundy, is we're basically kind of there, because the Best Lundy tape is basically what we were talking about. I hear a lot of Gabber in there.
Yeah, that's probably it. It's Nidstang, is it?
Yeah.
We've got a long-standing thing that's happening. I've been building up stuff with him, so I do believe I've got copies of that coming. It was just one of those things where, like, I like the label, I like the artwork on the tape, because it was some sort of knight on a horse. It was not like, and I wasn't expecting that sound to come out of it at all. It just I can hear it in my head while we're talking about it. It's like, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the magic Gabber black metal crossover. But I don't almost know where the black metal is in it. It's context.
It's the concept. It's like why people still, it's plain obvious that Friedhof is not black metal, but the aesthetic and the I don't know, the way of thinking or the attitude comes from a place.
It's much more literal with Friedhof, though, where it's like, the artwork and the photograph on the front. I mean, it looks like a black metal record. Where the Belzundy thing doesn't even. I mean, it could be anything, completely. But it's that context, and sometimes that context is all you need. But metal often does this as well. Like, metal likes to have their little pet bands that don't fit. I mean, I always think about Witch Hazel like that. Great UK band. I've been out on tour with them, and fantastic people. I especially like some of the earlier records, although I think what they do is great, and they're a Christian band, and they don't shy away from it, and in fact they openly let people know the lyrics are about that, and they go and play festivals I believe to some degree in the hopes that they're trying to communicate a message. But for some reason, metal's allowed them. They're not going to let another Christian band join in, or 5 Christian bands, but they're allowed, and they've been playing like the festival circuit for ages. And maybe it's just because they're so fucking good. Okay. But I do believe that metal has a little slight perversion as well, where it's like, we'll have one of those that we let in. We'll have one of these we'll let in, and black metal's a bit the same sometimes, I think, where it's like, yeah, you're black metal. That's it. You don't have to sound like it or anything like that, but you are.
I think the quality also speaks for itself. I think if it's actually good,
it helps.
Sorry? It helps.
It helps.
So, cheesy heavy metal. You called it. We'll talk about it.
Hold on.
Tyrant.
That out as one of my listens. Yeah, this has been on the rotation constantly.
The Javulin's music, Devil's music, I guess.
Yeah.
It's Enforcer and Tribulation people.
Yeah.
With guys that do, cheesy heavy metal, I guess.
It's almost hard to tell the songs apart because they're so simplistic. A couple of them just sound like they're just the same chords played in different orders.
It kind of reminds me in some ways about Loudness.
Yeah, sure.
In some ways, it reminds me of that kind of thing, but it's played with a bit more. I don't know if it's seriousness or it's hard because it has these Swedish lyrics, and then sometimes it's like the cliches are all barked in English.
Well, I am informed by my Swedish friends that the Swedish lyrics are pretty cliche too. So,
But
yeah,
yeah,
it's just a great record. It came right at the right time, just at the height of summer, I think it was, or at least it was still hot. And I just played it. I think I had it on rotation for at least one day, just all day in here. And that sold enough copies on its own. Sometimes if I just play something enough, yeah, it came out on Electric Assault, which is a New York label run by the excellent Henry. And what I was just trying to think, he's also in the band Spite. I believe he's in Spite. God Almighty, my brain cranking. Oh yeah, that's right. And
Spite, is that the one?
I'm not sure if he's in Spite, but Jesse's in Spite. He's in the band Impure, who are excellent. But he's just one of those guys who's been around for quite a long time now, taking bands out on tour, photographing bands, running his label, being in bands. He worked a lot with Tribulation. He took them on tour. So I believe that's got a big part of his relationship with Tyrant. But yeah, Electric Assault, fantastic label. And in fact, when we opened the shop originally, one of the first labels I reached out to, and bought a ton of stuff off him, and it took him a year to send it. And I've forgiven, but I haven't forgotten. But we got it in the end. That's what mattered. And it's all great stuff. And yeah, we've hung out at Musker Rock a bunch, and that whole scene, that whole New York scene, are just delightful.
Right. I have a bunch more, but I'm looking at the time. We've almost hit the hour mark, and we still have some prep shit to do. The last thing I wanted to ask you about, because it's a record I got to know just by staring at the wall in the back of you, the Medieval Filth one. I know you had a big poster there, yeah, and it always, it always boggled the mind what it was, because it just was a poster hanging up. But it's a is it a cult band, if you will, from
Yes, I mean, I can't tell you I know that much about them or anything, but that poster came out of the High Roller reissue, which I don't actually have. But I do have the poster. But I've got a first pressing somewhere here. I didn't pull that one out, but yeah, I don't know. There's this era in kind of US power metal where I think it's really apparent in early Manila Road, and it's really apparent on that Medieval record. Ay.
And bam. Giveaway. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's got some cool giveaway sticker on it as well, but that's a first press. But Andy's giveaway. Who knows? It's New Renaissance Records, which is a great label. It's very metal looking, but slightly punky, and they look like pretty ordinary dudes in their leather jackets. Sorry, I should take it out. Take it out. Look, you can. Oh well, it's a gloss cover, so it doesn't necessarily help that much. But they just play this sort of jangly, punky metal, maybe like very early Iron Maiden, slightly punkier, much more American, sort of street punk, but mixed with like wobbly guitar solos and screamy vocals, and it's just sort of like it's full of attitude, and like it's really brazen. And there's a song which I think was the first one, which is called Life After Death. That's it, Life After Death, which just hit me between the eyes, man. I love that track, and I searched for that record for ages. Yeah, I mean, absolutely love them. Which I think we can. I don't know if you've got a copy of this, but the Max Planck record.
I was going to ask, yeah.
That, for me, I don't know. The two records are really connected. I've also got a Buried by Time and Dust pressing of it, just to prove that I'm a total nerd. I was hoping that they were going to reissue, but instead this other label did it. And for my money, the Buried by Time and Dust version is a slightly nicer pressing. Sounds slightly better. This is called the End of the World edition. So it also comes with a 7 and a book with lots of pictures and stuff, but this comes with loads of extra stuff as well. Just a slightly better pressing. I mean, I know Bart Gabriel did a remaster on it, and it could be that I don't particularly like the extra depth or whatever that he's added to it, or it could just be the pressing itself. I'm not perfect with this sort of stuff, but I just know and maybe, you know, it's just what I'm used to, but I just like the Buried by Time and Dust version. But I know they underpressed it when they did. I think they did 100 copies, and I spent £10,000 not on this record, but on a collection that this record was in, of, like, you know, a lot of records. I bought a lot of records with that. But if that record hadn't been in the collection, maybe I wouldn't have been so swayed. But there was, I mean, it's almost all gone, that collection now, so it was definitely a worthy investment. But God, I was so happy to find that in there. So it's just that that sound. I wish I could find 10 more bands that sound like that. That sort of demo tape, jangly US power metal punk sound that just it just does something to me. And I can't. Literally, no one else cares. I try begging my friends to listen to these records. They're like, it sounds like shit.
I don't think it sounds like shit, because in the Medieval Kills, I hear some Stooges, which, you know, I'm basically sold whenever I hear just a fraction of Stooges. But the synchronicity is weird, because I had Medieval Kills, and then the second thing is Max Planck written under it, because it was, you know, just such a striking record. I didn't know anything about it, but yeah.
Yeah, again, I was talking to someone who runs shit, man, my poor brain. I was talking to this woman who runs a label from, I think they're from Michigan, is it? Yeah. I'm not sure. They're from one of those American cities, you know, not
Medieval Kills is from Michigan, I'm pretty sure.
From Michigan, right? So I was talking to a girl who runs a label from Michigan, and I got a bunch of her records in, and she was she's a big Max Planck fan, and so we chatted a bit about it. Gosh, she put out something really fucking good. It's a all-female UK new wave of British heavy metal band called Oral Sex.
Oh, yeah.
They're called Oral, and the record's called Sex, right? She reissued that, if you can find the name of the label, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And then she puts out a couple of younger bands as well, all really good stuff. And it was a real pleasure dealing with her. And but we chatted, we found out a little bit on Max Planck, and I think she'd actually reached out to some of them and tried to see if there was sort of any viability of them playing a gig or something like that. But it seemed like it was pretty much never going to happen. But yeah. So, you know, I'd be, yeah. Anyway, there you go. So that they're just two terrific records, and if people don't know them, then just listen to them. I have copies here.
I'm going to listen to them, because I've written down Max Planck as a to-do on my to-do list, and I've seen that Oral. I think Nuclear War Now had copies.
Yeah, Nuclear War Now had copies. I had copies too, and a few other people did. I mean, they are pretty inept. I mean, I think they are probably an example of a band who jumping on a bandwagon when Mobbin was trending. I might be wrong, but it seems no one knows almost anything about the three women, that they just disappeared after doing it. They've left no tail at all, and that no one knows even their real names. From what I understand, so I don't know where the licensing came from for the reissues either, but that's another question. But they're not great. You know, it's nice, it's very charming. I love shit like that. But compared to like the Max Planck or the Medieval Kills, I mean, those are fucking brilliant records. You know, completely lost. I think you talking about Stooges really hits the nail on the head as well. It's got something of that attitude in there.
It has that punk vibe you're talking about. It's not ripped from Stooges, but it's definitely influenced by, you know.
When I say punk, that's the punk I'm talking about. That's right.
We have prepared, or you have prepared this part of the video that is called the Wizard's Bin.
The Wizard's Bin.
Wizard's Bin.
The Sin Bin.
Pulled out some stuff, but yeah.
Well, it's just stuff that I've been listening to literally just this week, I guess. I mean, some of it's older, some of it's newer, but it's funny because I sit here all day listening to music, and some days I can't tell you what I'm listening to because every day just falls into the next. But I like to. It's nice actually to just take a minute and try and take stock. So first thing I'm going to say is this Regia Sinister. How do you fucking say it? Is it Regia? Oh yeah, I should have practiced that first, shouldn't I?
You're on the right channel.
It's a new. I got to take the shinies off. It's very shiny in this shop. Needs to sort the lighting out a bit. It's just come out on Zombie Dan's records, and it's two of the people from Ride for Revenge.
Yeah.
One of them being Hell Conjurer. Man, this band are crazy. I was really lucky because I've been working on and off doing a lot of stuff with Hell Conjurer since his first record, because that first Hell Conjurer record is probably one of my records of the decade. I love that first record, and I think every record he's done since has actually built upon it and built stronger. But of course, when you get bit by something, it's that first bite. But so that first record to me is so special. And then I brought him over here for a show, which was fucking unbelievable. A bar in he's a big lad. A bar in Hackney, where I'm based, had just opened, called Helgi's, and it's run by Ollie, who used to be in the band Moss, who are a doom band. He played a lot with Electric Wizard and stuff. It's his bar, and Steph as well, who's a witch, I think, apparently. And they run this bar, and they've got a 50 cap gig venue at the back. And they've got a mad late license. So I was like, I've been putting on shows for years and not selling tickets. I mean, every time I put on a show, 200 cap, 300 cap, I sell 50 tickets, and I love it, and it's great. And every now and again I do a bit better, but most of the time it was that. And then a 50 cap venue, fuck, every gig I've put on there is sold out. It's been a dream. So we had a Hell Conjurer in there, and Sump from Legion Blowtown played with, and a young UK black metal band who seemingly aren't doing anything anymore, but have sort of morphed into some other things. And it was just him on his own with a PA, in a pair of leather trousers. And there was a great moment where a group of women from a hen party walked into the gig like halfway through, and it was just full of like moody kids, and these women came in with like a big pink balloon and it was delightful. It was fantastic. But God Almighty, he's fantastic. So I pay close attention to his musical projects. I'm a long-standing Ride for Revenge fan too, and he sent me a tape of Regia Sinister, whatever it is, and it's just like, it sounds like it's recorded at the wrong speed. It's so dumb and sort of singular, a bit like Ride for Revenge in that sense, but there's more. I think you can see from the cover art, the black and red and white, that you can sort of see the influences right there and then on the sleeve when he drove into the shop. And haven't even listened to the B-side yet for the other band. But that's been going around today quite a lot. It's just so slothful and sort of dark and grim. I absolutely love it.
It's a Belgian.
Say again.
It's a Belgian label, so I'm going to pick it up from here somewhere.
That's right. That's right. They got to me very quickly. They were excellent with their organisation.
Yeah.
What did I pull out? Like I say, I'm not always the best at talking about music in technical terms, but I get a feeling, and sometimes that can be a bit hard to describe. But
I do two things on this channel. I talk from the heart, and I drop records every time. So we're 2 for 2.
I found this label called Pant E Mageddon or Pant Y Mageddon. They're from Czechia, and he's been putting up these tapes in. I'm fucking myself here, but he's been putting up these tapes in editions of 6, and they've been taking about 3 or 4 days to sell out. But I guess now I've done this, I won't be able to get them anymore. But I managed to get the first 2, and again, it's this ever-growing sound at the moment, which is mostly stemming from Russia, of sort of black oi metal, and it's this guy's doing it really well. The tapes are bright pink. It came with a little note that said, "Thank you for your order. I hope you enjoy the color of the tape. Cheers from the middle of nowhere." So I've just been buying everything he's been putting out. It's really cool, and it's up on Bandcamp. But again, yeah, just stompy, sort of black oi with pictures of knights on the front. I think it's called Chevalier Scrog is the name of the band. That's pretty cool.
Is it like the side cut sound?
Say again.
Is it like side cut slave? That sound a bit?
Yeah, it's a bit more basic than Side Cut Slave. I think, to me, at the moment, Side Cut Slave are kind of the creme de la creme of that sound. Again, the Fallow Field did a Side Cut Slave tape, but actually, Legion Blotan did one ages ago called Batcave Skinheads. And that's why I listened to it, because it was called Batcave Skinheads. I don't know what Batcave Skinheads are. And I assumed they were just like skins, but actually when I finally saw a picture of the band, they're like one of them, the main dude looks like a hippie, I think. I mean, they're really a funny guys. I've been chatting to one of them quite a lot because I was just so fascinated by the glimpses I was getting of stuff that was growing in Russia, seeing glimpses of shows. I know Nikki from who works here, like I said, he's in hardcore bands, and they'd gone out and played in Russia and said it's crazy out there. And, some of the footage I'd seen made it look wild. I'd love to visit. And I saw some Side Cut Slave gigs and they're playing with sort of art, noise rock bands and stuff. And one of the guys I was chatting to seems to run Horrible Room Records.
Yeah.
And their tape that just came out of his new band, which I'm not even sure how to say. Someone told me it was called Hooked Cross was the translation, actually. But they were pestering me about a Hooked Cross tape. I was like, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. And they sent me a picture. And I'm like, so I guess that's what it translates to. That's phenomenal as well. And I believe there's one coming. So, but yeah, so I've been listening to that a lot as well. Again, cut from the same cloth as Side Cut Slave, but a little bit more musical, dare I say, Yeah,
I think the Side Cut Slave has more of the. This one also has a punk influence. I think all of their stuff. I think this is leaning more into the black metal than into the Side Cut Slave is leaning into the punk stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
Musicality is coming from there, maybe. I'm not sure.
And then similarly from Russia as well, because now I'm just obsessed now, is this Cold Gate tape. First off, I just like the art.
Gold.
Yeah, which is a brand of toothpaste here.
Colgate.
So, but I just like this sort of meat dog artwork.
Yeah.
Thought it was really cool looking, and the tapes when they arrived, they stunk because someone's just spray painted them black. The smell has died down, but that was a banging little tape, and I got those, and unfortunately I've still got quite a few left in the shop. But if anyone wants to hear them, have a listen. I think it's on Bandcamp as well, or it'll be in the usual places. But I've got copies if you want. But not that this is an advert, but I thought that was a cracking little tape.
Where do you get? Are you checking this stuff on Bandcamp, or where do you get this stuff?
I don't know. This is my life, isn't it? It comes at me constantly. I don't know. I wonder what life's going to be like when I turn that faucet off, because I don't know what will fill my time with. Maybe being a better parent. but the I don't know.
Yeah.
The but I mean, I've got radar out, I guess. That's it, and that's the best way to describe it. I've just my radar's all the time, and I'm constantly screen grabbing and following leads. But it mostly still stems from wanting to hear stuff that's cool and different and exciting. That's the main desire. It's not what can I fill the shop with. It's first and foremost I try and please myself, and I hope that people will come with me. And that's been my attitude to this new incarnation of the shop. Whereas the last one, I think I was a bit too concerned with pleasing other people. What do people want? What do people want to come in here and get? It was, and now it's like I'm doing the opposite of that, and I'm happier. And I think in the long run, it's better for everybody because. Record shops shouldn't give people what they want. It should tell them what they should have. That's what record shops should do.
You're finally the dickhead record shop owner.
I'm very nice about it, but I'm
nice
right, and they should listen to what I tell them to listen to. There shouldn't be all this coming in here asking for shit and wanting stuff they've heard of. They should come in here and suffer.
It's why I'm calling you and not some shop owner in London, I guess.
No, I'm very nice. I get emails sometimes from people who start off very defensive. I get a lot of emails from customers, no hellos, no please and thank yous, just really to the point and aggressive. And I asked my wife why she thought that was, and she said, well, the brand is a little bit aggressive. The brand, Crypt of the Wizard brand, is a little, you're a fucking wizard, and it's all writing no one can read, and it's all these horrible pictures and stuff. And like, maybe people are a bit intimidated. Maybe they're right, but I'm perfectly nice and approachable.
Did you take stock from where they were coming from, those mails?
I mean, the world over,
Yeah. I've noticed. Since this channel is doing a bit better than every year, it's growing a bit. And I've noticed that every mail or request that comes from Thailand, it's like, follow my band. It's not like, hey, I'm Tony, this is my band. It's like, follow my band. Okay, no problem.
That's quite good. I just like please and thank yous, and I like hello. I mean, maybe it's because I'm constantly walking around with two little kids trying to teach them their manners, but it doesn't hurt. I respond very well to it. But, at the same time, like I say, I'm right, and listen to what I tell you to. Talking of which, I was a bit surprised by this one that came to me just now from Night Rhythms. I was listening to it a lot, trying to work out who Oozing Tunnel was.
Oozing Tunnel.
But it's not Oozing Tunnel, it's Putrid Marsh.
Yeah, it's the Goblin guy.
It's the Goblin guy. And I like the record well enough. When I saw a picture of him, listen, my shop is called Crypt of the Wizard. Mortis and I have a long, beautiful relationship. What you got? Oof. And I was waiting for someone to do the fucking makeup.
Yeah.
Mortis invented this genre, and there's all these fucking people with short hair and keyboards playing music based by him. But who's gonna don the fucking the makeup and go for it, like the prosthetics? And you know what? He's done it, but he's done it and made it his own. And so I was like, from the second I saw it, I thought, kudos, like I dig it. I think it was about time. I'm gonna ask Mortis what he thinks about it next time, maybe privately. But
I think he like everything I hear from that guy. I think he'll like it.
Yeah, he's a positive guy. But the sound of the LP that came out on Go Oryx, I liked. I kept a copy for myself. I thought it was really good, but it didn't surprise me. When I heard this, I was really surprised because it's much tougher. It's a much tougher listen. It's much more aggro and unrelenting. It has this sort of like. We're slightly walking back towards Friedhof and not Grousman Crypt maybe, but Bells Lundy or whatever. It's slightly pushing back towards that, although not quite as aggro or difficult. But So now I'm gonna have to fucking go back and try and find all the all the Putrid Marsh stuff. A lot of which came out on Night Rhythms, which again a label I really like for its inconsistency. You know, it's all over the place, that label, and it goes from releasing. In fact, like they put out the Heavy Sentence 7-inches. So we have a relationship as a label in that sense that I put out the album. But they put out lots of weird grindcore. They it's on the wall. They put out an album by this band. I've been listening to this for ages now. A band called Gender Fluids.
Mm-hmm.
That fucking record's great. I'm not a grindcore guy at all, but the drums on this are just wild, man. So good. He also put out the Mephites record, which is there, which I think is going to be a popular one, and tons of tapes all across the board. Really interesting stuff. So I've got a lot of respect for labels like that. Certainly not trying to, no crowd pleasers. You know, he's doing what he does because he wants to do it. And I just got a big box of stuff from him. So
that's Night Rhythms, right?
Night Rhythms, yeah, Night Rhythms, definitely. They're a US label, but yeah, I'm surrounded by it, but I can't quite put my hands on anything right now. But that tape came from there. It's very kind of him to stuff a load of tapes in a box of stuff that's all sold out. So I've got some nice bits and pieces from him.
One of the records I missed or keep missing is the Reclusive Goblin from God of War. It's just every time it's gone. So, yeah.
You need to be a bit more nepotistic and ask me these things ahead of time. I had quite a few copies of that one, but there you are. Maybe we can find one for you. But what else did he put out?
I need to revise my order.
Yeah, right. I'm sure I've got a pile of stuff for you somewhere. This shop is getting so chaotic. I've cleaned all the rubbish just out of screen, but from here to here, there's just boxes piled up everywhere and just shit everywhere. And tomorrow is a customer day. I don't open on Tuesdays and Wednesdays to customers. I just do all my mail order. Although if people are close by, they can come in. But you know, on Thursdays I have to get here early and tidy all day.
And you have to make it out in the evening.
Yeah, well, yeah, I just push it all to one side. In fact, a fire inspector came this week and was not happy. So there's some modifications going to have to be made.
Have you seen Nicky lately?
Yes.
Okay. Not that he's buried under something.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I haven't seen him since the weekend. You never know.
Ouch.
He was teaching my daughter to draw skulls.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
He can do that.
He's a good baby.
We are almost an hour and a half. The only thing I wanted to ask you about is because I saw it on your page is the Dead SS book.
Oh.
Have you been reading it, or did you crack it? Or
I like most things I read these days. I get really excited, read the first 20 pages, and then fall asleep, and then don't get around to picking up again. But I think I got a bit further than that. How many introductions are there in that book? Like 6?
Yeah.
By more this actually, but there's a lot of introductions. I was like waiting for this book to start, but it's got it definitely has that air of a book that the translator probably doesn't make a living from translating. So it's got that, and I quite like that. It's a bit like when you listen to bands and you can hear the singer has a foreign accent. I always love that. It does something for me. So it's got a bit of that time, which is right for the book. I sold out of copies much quicker than I thought I would. I primarily do not sell a lot of books here. I try, but people don't seem to buy them. I was speaking to Ollie from Moss, who is a Death SS aficionado. He knows everything there is to know about Death SS. And he reckons that about 70% of the stories are completely fucking made up. But they're the same made up stories that Steve Sylvester has been telling for most of his life at this point. So I don't know where you're supposed to draw the lines, really.
Becoming legends.
I mean, I've spent a couple of nights drinking with Lee Dorian, and he went and stayed with Paul Chain, you know, in the 90s, and some of the stories he has from then are unbelievable to say the least, but very entertaining. And he doesn't tell them jokingly; he tells them, you know, like they happened, which involve, you know, phantoms and disappearing rooms and all sorts of crazy shit, you know. But I wouldn't want to read a book that cut through all that stuff and just told the truth. I mean, how boring would that be?
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. That's another shop. Have you been to the Rise Above shop?
I have.
Yeah.
I have. One of my closest friends came over from Sweden, and he's probably the person that hit me to Rise Above many, many, many years ago. And so I thought it was only fitting that we go and visit together. I was really impressed. It's a handsome shop. It's a lot bigger than mine, and it has a lot of stuff across the genres. I think most people could find something they wanted. It has a lot of rare prog, a lot of rare prog. In fact, what's quite nice is that as you get towards the counter, the records get rarer and more expensive, which is obviously the logical way to do it in a record shop. But by the time you're right next to the counter, you're looking at fucking eye-watering records. But there's, you know, as much as I enjoy that stuff, I don't have the desire to buy it. I've never been that kind of record collector, really. But I picked up a couple of things. I picked up a Shinki Chen reissue. You know Shinki Chen, the Japanese Jimi Hendrix? Yeah. There's a couple of like reissues that, you know, you can't sell on Discogs anymore, and so they're hard to find. They're just sitting in there in boxes. He had a lot of he had a couple of Jack Stoth records that I don't own that I meant to buy, but Lee wasn't actually there when I went, and they didn't have prices on them, so I didn't end up getting them because the person working didn't know how much they cost. But they're cheap records. I know that they're not expensive. But my friend went crazy and he bought this beautiful Nick Drake box, and they were all pressings from the original tapes, which disintegrated 40 years ago. So very, very beautiful things. And what else did he buy? I'm sure his wife's not going to watch this, but I won't say the prices anyway. But he bought some very, very expensive records. So I think, you know, you can really go in there. Maybe it's like a trip you do every 6 months or something and go and drop a brick of money. But like I say, I've never been that kind of collector. I buy new stuff as it comes out. Yeah. I do feedback, like I was saying, with Brain Bombs and Current 93 and stuff like that, where I wasn't there when it happened, so I do have to go back. But I'm generally happy with a repress. If I can get a first pressing, it's nice. Because I feel, going back to the collection thing, you know, the more valuable you make your collection, the less Sisyphean the task is, right? Like, surely I'm leaving something for someone that will be valuable at some point, whoever they are, rather than just the shittiest versions of everything, you know. But I don't seek out sort of multi-thousand-pound records and
the thought here is you can buy $1,000 record. I can't buy, but you can hypothetically buy $1,000 record, but that's like, you know, 40 records in our world. So
yeah, exactly. I'd rather have the 40 records, really. And I'm trying to have a policy now, is if I buy something that's a bit pricier, then I will try and sell other stuff I have to that value.
Yeah.
But you know, who's counting? But I don't know. It's we're getting to the point now where spending you know, a new LP is going to cost £30, £35. I think that's going to be pretty normal soon. At least €35, maybe. You know, it's the other big change, obviously, we haven't talked about, which is like a whole another episode, is the vinyl shortage, and that's going to push prices. I've been told by my pressing plant that I should to expect 20% increases on prices. So
yeah, it's going to be, I think pretty soon it's going to be impossible to keep it manageable, I guess.
Yeah. So then, maybe then you do start buying expensive rare shit because it's a better investment or whatever. Like, or it's easier to justify. If a new record's 35 quid, then why not spend 40 or 50 on a first pressing of something?
Yeah,
Sorry, say that again.
or get the tape.
Sure. Yeah. Death first, then rare tapes. CDs, I just never got on with. I know some people love them, but I didn't like them the first time round, so I can't get on with them now, I'm afraid.
I have some, but yeah.
Of course, I fucking got some. I just don't like them. I don't collect 7-inches or tapes, but I've got fucking thousands of them.
I even have 10 inches, and everybody hates those.
I hate 10 inches, but I've got quite a lot. I've got one friend who loves them, but he's even got special boxes for his 10 inches at home. But I do everything I can to avoid them. And then someone who I really like Wagner Odegaard, releases 10 inches. Then what can I do? I can't not have it, can I?
Is that the Kenny Potter or is it?
Oh, this is Pate, yeah. The new lathe.
I skipped it because it's fucking 10 inch.
I've got to the point with his stuff now where I just have to have all of it.
The thing I do now is because I don't want to have a separate, room for 10 inches or a separate bin. I just chuck them in with 12 inches. Put them in.
Forget you own. I mean, I do the same in the shop, which probably isn't very helpful.
Okay. We didn't make it through the entire record stack, so that will probably be another video.
What you got down there? I want to see. I can't remember.
The Friedhof records. I have a bunch of. Oh, there's one we could talk about, I guess.
No, do one more.
One more. The best of the bunch. This one. This will probably be high up in my end of the year list. It's Love and Beauty by Slutet. There you go.
Just for symmetry, we have to end on some symmetry.
Yeah, I think this entire video was symmetry, but I have known them for quite a while just because of God of War X that have been not pushing them, but have been putting their stuff out for a while. A very weird. They're called the End Commune, I think, the entire bunch or the entire grouping of bands. The first time I saw the video of him cutting part of his flesh or part of his thigh and then eating it, I was like, this is maybe one of the most fucked up bands out there, or communes out there. Musically, it's not as fucked up as the imagery maybe. I think this one, because it has the title as Love and Beauty, it is still very harsh. It is still very foul black metal, but it is a bit more easy to listen to than the other stuff they put out, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that comes from what I understand of this of a sort of growth within the commune towards something less wild and crazy in terms of the way they were sort of living their lives. I've had a few sort of relatively intimate conversations with one of the members of the band because I approached them about playing a live show in Sweden at the Muscular Rock Festival some years ago now, which they agreed to do. It was going to be their first ever live show, and I was very excited about it. And they cancelled about 10 months in advance of the gig. So what they knew, I don't know. It recently came up again in conversation, and he said that it was one of his regrets that couldn't happen.
Okay.
Because it would have been amazing to have manifested the wildness of those early crazy years into a final sort of thing, performance, but it couldn't happen. I thought there was. I wish I could. I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember exactly what he said, but more or less, I think he explains that Slutet is not a band anymore for that reason. Is that it was the sort of the sum of the parts of a kind of wild youth of a group of people operating closely together, And I think the manifestation that might have been that concert or whatever is this album, actually. I think this album is the manifestation of all that finally processed into something definitive. So all those early tapes and all that wildness, I mean, that's what got me really into the band. I think Works had already done the first release by the time I came across them. I would have loved to have had those first tapes. I know Danny did, because when I interviewed Danny during my sort of lockdown Crypt interview series, he talks about getting those first tapes and being sort of slightly
I saw that.
he was sort of blushing somewhat at the subject matter. He was sort of like quite excited by the prospect. He had those tapes. I mean, God Almighty, I'd love to get my hands on some of those. But there you are. As a real collector of that band, and this, like you say, it's much more manageable, much more listenable. The drums sound much cleaner, I would say, and the whole thing a more well recorded and well produced record. Maybe if this was the first thing I'd heard by them, it might not grab me.
I didn't hear the narrative, but hearing it, it just I kind of have goosebumps because it gives it it's like I needed closure with that band.
Yeah.
And maybe this is it's very weird. It's a very weird band. I have a very weird listening relationship with them. But yeah, hearing this, it kind of all makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, but I love narrative and I love aesthetics, and I'm unashamedly swayed by these things, because I think they work as companions to sound. The idea that we should somehow have this very analytical and separate relationship with music than aesthetics and narrative has always been anathema to me. Primarily because I'm not a musician and I don't understand how music works really. Although I've spent enough time in the guts of it now to have a better idea. You know, I just spent a week in the studio recording an album. You know, I was in the booth listening for the next big Crypt release, which is going to be Parish's debut album, which is beautiful and I'm very excited about it. And it's been done through a real analog process. Which is really nice as well. So I understand music better than I ever did probably now, but nonetheless, I can't talk about it particularly fluently like a musician, and I can't understand it that way. What I understand is like what has affect on me, and narrative and aesthetic are part of that. And obviously, when I was 12 or 13, I found a band like Mayhem. The thing, the narrative and the aesthetic that was hard to know, the thing that you had to work for and eke out little bits of information was even better. There was nothing better than that, than like it not being handed to you. And it's amazing that you can still find bands like that. They still exist, and Slutet are one of them. And even though I've managed to get under the skin of it a little bit, they still have that affect on me. Talking of which, another band who are closely associated have their album out this week, which I can't wait to listen to, but I've been holding back on, which is the new Reveal album.
Oh yeah, on Sepulchral.
Exactly, and they're another band where, you know, no matter how much I know about them, I've put them on live and spent time with them, but I don't know anything about them. They're a mysterious entity. Slutet are that for me. In some ways, I probably sonically almost prefer the rehearsal tape, the live rehearsal tape that came out as well. I don't know if you had copies of that from Manifest of Hate.
No, the problem with, not the problem, but that is the realest manifestation of that band.
Yeah,
there is. But no, I don't have that. I think I have one Go to Warwick's record and then this one.
I do believe that Go Warwick's are releasing it on vinyl, so that will probably be the final release from them. As far as I know, I mean, I'm speculating, but I think I've got them all now. I know that one of them, the guy from Slutet just sent me the last one I don't have, but he sent it to my friend in Sweden because he didn't want to do international shipping. So when I'm next in Sweden, I'll get to pick it up.
You have to wait a bit more.
I will.
I think that's the perfect way to end. The description you gave about the heartfelt way you listen to music is what this channel is basically all about, because I can't talk music for shit. I mean, I'm not a musician just like you. Yeah, we have reached the logical conclusion. 1 hour 39 in. Charlie, once again, thank you very much for these talks, our talks in general, and I hope we can do many, many more.
Yeah, well, have a good end to your year. We probably will talk, but not not publicly until the next year. But let's do it again.
Cheers to you, cheers to your family, and we'll see each other very soon, I guess.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. Hail Charlie. Bye, man.